Greetings everyone, I am Dr. Wolf, and with the most recent MLP episode, Dragon Dropped, I've been wondering, is this the end of Sparity? What lies in the future for Spike? I mean, it kind of came out of nowhere that he'd have such an interest in Gabby and Gabby have such an interest in him, but the more I think about it, yeah, that makes so much sense, especially given the cultures they come from and how they're one of the very few individuals who actually do enjoy friendship. But I am genuinely curious, exactly where does Spike go from here? Given the entirety of the series, he has always idolized Rarity. He has always wanted to be helping her in every way possible, even going out of his way to spend more time wherever he can. Seeing this change in his character, seeing that he doesn't really think that Rarity is the priority in his life anymore, and yet, at the end of Dragon Dropped, he is willing to admit, you know what? Even though I do want to spend more time with Gabby, Rarity time is still important to me. And it's kind of Rarity's lesson that she has to learn to share Spike, or even just let him go in a way, where he's not going to be the number one assistant for all the gem hunting and fabric carrying and gift bag wrapping and everything else. But thinking about Spike's future, I know that he wants to spend more time with Gabby, and you know, if we actually had future seasons, I would have loved to see more stories that delve into that much further, but this is kind of the series winding down. I mean, previous week we had a hint that maybe Fluttershy wants to marry Discord, even though it's based off of what Angel Bunny said, and it could be give or take on whether or not he's telling the truth. But I like the idea that towards the end of the series, as everything is wrapping up, the writers are giving us kind of a bookend for each of these characters. Not spelling everything out, but kind of showing them maturing, kind of showing them moving on, even though they still maintain these deep personal friendships like between Spike and Rarity. We are showing that Spike's first crush isn't going to be his only crush. And yeah, I like the idea that Spike could become closer friends with Gabby. I guess that's going to be left to kind of fan fiction material because, again, show's coming to an end. But the more I thought about it, the more or less confirmed ships in the show have kind of been between, say, Big Mac and Sugar Belle, and maybe Fluttershy and Discord. There's a lot of big hints towards that. And now between Spike and Gabby. Maybe. And I find it a little interesting that the mostly confirmed ships in the show have all been from the same three characters who play ogres and oubliettes together. I have to think that that's a bit of a coincidence, or maybe just a wink and a nod from the writers. I don't know. It just seems a little too coincidental. And now I'm trying to imagine, during the guys' night of ogres and oubliettes, wouldn't it be fun to actually see a corresponding girls' night between Fluttershy and Gabby and Sugar Belle? Now I want to see those three characters interacting. That would have been fun. But again, the show is kind of winding down. A lot of what's being discussed here is probably never going to be shown, and probably will only be left to fan fiction material. But I still like the idea that Spike is kind of maturing and moving on, and yeah, Gabby seems to be a little more his age and is interested in him, not because he is a number one assistant, but because personality similarities. And yeah, I can really get behind that idea. But does that mean that Sparity is no more? Not necessarily. I mean, it could be that over the years, because Spike is maturing and kind of moving on, and Rarity is able to see him in an entirely new light and much better appreciates the time that Spike does give to her, I could still see a scenario that years down the road, they do have a much deeper respect for one another. So, again, it depends. It's entirely within theory and fan fiction material, but I like those kind of story possibilities. And, as I've said before, I like that the writers are kind of giving us a bookend for each of these characters. It's kind of fun to think about in the days winding down to the series finale. And I'm sure we'll have quite a lot of time before MLP G5 comes around, and the 2021 movie, whatever that's going to be about, because it's supposed to be bridging the gap between G4 and G5. But it's still fun to talk about. It's still fun to imagine different future possibilities. I can get behind the idea of Spike and Gabby because it was a friendship that was developed not because of Spike being the #1 assistant and always wanting to spend as much time with Rarity and help whatever she needed. It seemed much more one-sided, especially in the earlier seasons. In Gabby and Spike's case, it's because they just enjoy talking to each other. They just enjoy spending time together. And if that's the end of Sparity, I can certainly be okay with that. I would like to see more of these two together. They're kind of adorable. But I don't know. It really depends on personal preferences. I'm open to many different ideas. Especially that perhaps coincidental fact that the sort of confirmed ships in the show are all based around guy characters who play ogres and oubliettes together. I mean, is that kind of a bit of a nod towards the fans who are very much into those sort of things as well? That'd be pretty smart for the writers to do. But in the meantime, I would like to hear from each of you. Have you ever been a fan of the Sparity ship? And do you think that perhaps many years down the road, it is something that could reignite because of a deeper respect and even a new perspective from these two characters? Or is it more the idea that Spike is maturing and moving on and being with someone who is much closer to him in personality that appeals to you? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, because as always, I am Dr. Wolf, and I look forward to hearing from you.